Good evening, everyone. This is Nitya Ramachandra from the NR Sports Show. This is episode 951. We are live on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Anchor. Please, fans, tune in. This would be awesome. I am joined by a really special guest. His name is Mike Karney. He's a former Arizona State, New Orleans Saints, Rams fullback. He also he went to the Pro Bowl for two-time Pro Bowl, and he's from California. It's truly an honor to have him on the show today. And Mike Karney, thank you again for joining the show. How are you and your family doing today?
Doing well, Nathan. Thank you for having me on, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so I want to start off with you, childhood growing up, and obviously you grew up in California, San Jose, California. So what was it like?
Yeah,
what was it like growing up as a kid there, and when did you get interested in the game of football?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So my bio says San Jose. That's where I was born. So that's where my mom and dad were born and raised. I was born there, but I was raised up in Washington State, in a city called Kent, Washington. So that's where I spent all my childhood, all the way up through high school until I was 18, and until I was obviously recruited to Arizona State, and then was in Arizona for 12 years. Moved out here about 9 years ago to Southern California, and been here ever since.
Yeah. So who did you look up to? Who are some of your role models that you looked up to in the NFL?
Oh man, as far back as Walter Payton.
Oh, wow.
I mean, sweetness. I remember watching him break the all-time rushing record, Jim Brown's, back in, what was that, 80? I forget what year it was. It was 80s. It was late 80s. But I remember watching that game, going, man. I remember watching him as a player, just kind of mesmerized, and just how inspiring he was, and how hard he played, and how hard he ran. So it kind of started there, and then watching college football in the mornings, watching Keith Jackson, the old great play-by-play for college football, hearing him call the games, I remember watching the game, specifically watching Desmond Howard,
Wow.
His Heisman year back in the early 90s. And then, football, I think probably around when I was 5 years old, football was like, man, I really like this sport. And I, never dreamed it would play out the way it did. It was kind of something that really interested me. And then, I started playing when I was 7, and from that day forward, I was hooked, and I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
Yeah, so in high school, you got to be you were a two-sport athlete, football and baseball. So tell our fans about that process. And did you ever think that maybe you could have been a Bo Jackson type of player?
No, not even close. Bo Jackson, man, I don't think there'll ever be another Bo Jackson, at least not in my lifetime, at least not in our lifetime, I don't think. But no, I was a kid growing up. I played all sports, played basketball, soccer, football, baseball. Really narrowed it down to just football, baseball as I got older. Baseball is a sport I played since I was 5, playing T-ball, up through I was 18, playing select ball. But I was a pretty good catcher. My sophomore year in my high school, in my high school career, I started on varsity. I set the school record for batting average and doubles, and then I ended up retiring after my sophomore year from baseball because I really wanted to focus on football. So football it was always my love, and it became my love at a young age, and it was definitely something I wanted to gear my career path towards. So so I played all 3 sports: basketball, football, baseball, up until my freshman year, and then I played baseball my sophomore year, and then I focused my junior and senior just solely on football. So the goal was obviously to get a scholarship, play major college football, and then obviously from there to move on to the National Football League. So that's kind of what I really geared myself towards when I was in high school.
Oh, yeah. So also, you got the All-American selection with USA Today Prep Star. What was that like for you?
It was cool. I mean, back then now you have 5-star, 4-star, 3-star. You get these kind of declarations for where you stand, and nationally. Back then, I think it was blue chip, green chip, white chip, whatever. I don't even think I was a blue chip. I think I was a green chip. But I got an honorable mention, All-American honor at a high school, and I think that was pretty cool to put that in the resume. But all it was a print in the USA Today. It was nothing more than that.
Yeah. So in high school, obviously now in this generation, coaches love to play players, and multiple positions. So obviously you're a fullback, but did you get to play did you get to learn any other offensive positions and also defense, or mainly focus on offense?
Yeah. In junior high, I was we ran the old school wishbone. I was running back in junior high. Then my freshman year, where I grew up, we were 7th, 8th, 9th for junior high. High school was 10, 11, 12. And so my 9th grade year, they moved me to quarterback. But we didn't throw it. It was because I had a good arm, but we rarely threw the ball. We did more quarterback sneaks, to be honest with you. And then but my love was fullback. I grew up watching all the great fullbacks, Tom Rathman, Niners, Moose Johnston, and then obviously mid-90s, Mike Allstott come out of Purdue, playing for the Buccaneers. So fullback was my spot. I was an all-state linebacker up in Washington my senior year, so I was a pretty good middle linebacker as well. But I just didn't have the sideline speed you needed to have to move on to the next level, and I did have the quickness and the blocking ability for fullback. And so we ran a pretty traditional offense. Thankfully, in high school, we ran an I formation, so I was able to do a lot of lead blocking. I was able to get some carries and get some touchdowns and get some numbers there. But the goal, probably from the time I was in junior high on was ultimately to be a fullback.
Hey man, speaking of running back, you had 800 rushing yards, 22 touchdowns in high school. Did you ever think to yourself, maybe this is my sweet spot also, along with the fullback?
Yeah, not really. I knew that was just kind of, hey, I was a 5'11", 250-pound kid in high school. My senior year, those were my numbers just for my senior year.
Yeah.
I don't know what my career numbers were. It probably wasn't much more than that. But my senior year, I was definitely the focal part of the offense. So I got a lot of carries, along with doing a lot of the dirty work and lead blocking. But no, I knew that moving forward throughout college and hopefully beyond, that I was going to be having to really focus on my blocking skills.
Yeah. So speaking of college, obviously senior year, that's when you put up the big numbers. And do you think that helped, the numbers you put up helped you get with the colleges that were looking at you?
It's interesting. My recruiting process was not as easy as it probably looks on paper. I had to do a lot of my own recruiting. I did my own writing to schools. I got the traditional copied recruiting letters, but thankfully I had a buddy of mine in high school, Crosstown High School, that was a pretty big recruit. And I thought I just was fascinated because he had so many offers, but he was still writing to schools and responding to them. I said, you know what? This guy's got 30 offers. I don't have any, and I'm not writing to any schools. So I really started to take that, into my own hands and started to write schools and send my tape out and get in contact with schools. And really it came down to just, hey, what schools run a fullback? And back in the late 90s, there was a lot of schools that ran a fullback. So, excuse me, I did my own little top 25 list, and Arizona State happened to be one of those schools. They ended up competing against Ohio State in the Rose Bowl in '96, and I was like, yeah, they got a big old fullback there. I might want to write to them. So I ended up writing to them, and lo and behold, it just happened to work out. They came up and saw me, and I was able to have the process kind of unfold for me in that realm of getting recruited and basically.
Oh, I think your audio cut off. Oh, the boxes.
So I need to sign for something for the wife. Sorry about that, but it's a crazy time of year. But yeah, so the goal for me was to ultimately get a scholarship. I had. I was getting recruited, the normal letters and stuff, but I wasn't getting the offers. And so, I just, like I said, had to take it to my own hands. And thankfully enough, I was able to get a hold of a coach at Arizona State that was able to see really the value that I had and that I could play at the next level. And so it just happened to work out with Arizona State.
Yeah. So speaking of Arizona State, tell our fans, what was the experience like there? Obviously a great college program, and they're on the rise with Herm Evers there now. So what was it like when the time you were there, and explain the fan atmosphere, the college atmosphere, and playing against top level competition?
Yeah, when I went to Arizona State, they were, kind of coming out of that Rose Bowl years. Bruce Schneider was our head coach, and he was an old school coach who liked to run two back. He loved big fullbacks, loved big running backs, and so, for me, it was just a dream come true to be able to go there. And my goal was to play as a freshman, which I ended up. I was able to accomplish that. I started as a true freshman, so I just couldn't believe that all the hard work and all the writing to schools and all the training and everything had really paid off. And I couldn't believe that I was playing. I just many times my freshman year I had to pinch myself that I couldn't believe I was playing major college football versus some very other really good programs. At that time it was the Pac-10. So a different game then than it is now, right? A lot more throwing, a lot more spread offenses. So but my experience at Arizona State was awesome. I had a great time. 4 years, probably the 4 best years of my life.
Wow. Hey, so tell our fans your training routine in college, because it said I found an interesting thing. You pulled the car. Yeah. You strapped the car from your back and you pulled it.
Yeah, I didn't. I don't know who wrote that. It's funny because they always say I used to strap a car and pull a car. I used to push my car and then strap a harness on and drag a heavy sled. So I used to do, so basically I read an article in Sports Illustrated back in the mid 90s of McAllister at Purdue and how he was pushing his Jeep around campus. And I was like, gosh, and well, if Mike Allstott's doing it, I can do it. And so I was like, I'm going to start doing that now. I want to get bigger. I want to get faster. I want to get stronger. And so I started pushing my old 1991 Nissan Stanza around the any vacant parking lot I could find. High school. I remember one time specifically, I was in a church parking lot and just by my house there where I lived, and people were coming out of a lot of they had a youth night there, and they were coming out, and it was actually pouring down rain, and it was like 40 something degrees, and I had parents coming up to me saying, "I'm sorry, son, is your car broken down? Do you need a ride?" I'm like, "Nope, just working out, just pushing my car around the parking lot here." I was in sweats and a hoodie and sweating and had music blaring, and people were just kind of like, "Are you serious?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually serious. I'm working out here right now." So I just kind of, I was just kind of doing things that I felt were going to separate me from the average everyday high school kid. And I felt like that was going to be my edge. And then I just was able to continue those types of training methods throughout college. And so I was able to, get with our college strength coach at the time and do some other crazy stuff when I was there. I loved watching the old school ESPN World's Strongest Man stuff. So I loved doing the farmer's carries, loved picking up big bricks, big, landscaping bricks, carrying them around the yard and tying myself and try to race back and forth. And I used to get leg weights and run up hills. I had parachutes. I was running with parachutes back in the day. For me, it was crazy, but I just felt like it was, I was not always gifted as one of the fastest guys out there. I was a pretty quick guy. And so I really focused on just a lot of power and speed training. And so it just really was able to kind of set me apart. And I wanted to be the best player I could possibly be. And I felt like those were the workouts that were going to help me get there.
Yeah, I'm a gym rat too, so maybe you have to give us some fitness advice over here too.
Yeah.
And you should join that. You should definitely join that show, World's Strongest Man. I think.
Yeah. Those guys are crazy, man. I miss those shows though. I tell you, those are fun to watch growing up.
Yeah. So now tell our fans about your draft experience. Obviously, what was it like spending time with your family, waiting for your name to be called? You got drafted in 2004, round 5, pick 156. By the New Orleans Saints, obviously. So what was that like for you and for your family?
Dream come true, man. I mean, it sounds cliche. Dream come true. Every year the draft happens, even thereafter, I just pinch myself that I was able to be drafted. That was the goal coming out of college. My goal was to be the number 1 fullback in college football coming out of college, and I was rated the number 1 fullback. Mel Kiper didn't have me in his top 5, but everyone else had me as their number 1 fullback coming out of college. And I felt like being drafted in the 5th round, being the first fullback selected that year was pretty much my first round. But I think the biggest thing I'm most proud of is I was the first fullback selected in that draft, which made me obviously the best fullback in that draft. So I had to, it was a great day. I had over 100 family friends and just coaches and people there around. I mean, it was a long process, but to hear that your name go across the ticker and to get the call at that time, Jim Haslett was the head coach, to get the call from him saying, "Hey man, we're trading up a couple spots to take you. Are you ready to block for Deuce McAllister?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Are you kidding me? Absolutely. I'm ready to go." So, but then, I remember at that draft party, we're cutting the cake, celebrating. I said, "Hey, this is not the end. This is just another goal for me. My goal is to have as long as career as I can. And I have some other individual, goals I want to achieve while I'm in the NFL. So it wasn't just to get there. It was to be the best I could be also in the National Football League.
Well, we might have to reach out to Mel Kiper now to say how great of a career you had.
Yeah, I think he knew, because when they eventually got to talk about me that day, he was all, he was serenading me with tons of praise and, "Oh, this guy's great," and I'm like, "Never had me in your top 5, Mel. What the heck, man?" But I didn't take any of that stuff personally. I mean, for me, it was fuel for the fire. So I wanted to go out and prove all those people wrong that maybe didn't have me in their rankings, or those teams that didn't think that I could be their fullback. But the New Orleans Saints, just like Arizona State, saw something in me of value and that I could bring to their organization and be a good player for them at that position.
Yeah, so you spent 4 years there, but your first year as a rookie, you got to play with Deuce McAllister, obviously a great running back, and you had Aaron Brooks as your quarterback, and you played with Dante Stallworth, Joe Horn. You can go down the list.
Yeah.
Great talented roster you had your first year. So what was it like transitioning from college, going into the NFL, and then seeing players like I just mentioned, and blocking for a great running back like Deuce McAllister?
Mind blowing, man. Mind blowing. I mean, here you are. Just the year before, watching these guys on Sundays, going, "Man, am I going to be good enough to play with these guys?" And these guys are good, like, and then it happens, and then you're out there. And just like my goal coming out of high school, or actually my goal going into, I didn't even mention it before to you, but going into high school, my goal was to start as a sophomore, and I started as a sophomore. My goal going to Arizona State was to start as a true freshman. I ended up starting as a true freshman. My goal as a rookie in the NFL was to start as a rookie, and I was able to do that. Going from college to NFL was like deer in headlights. I mean, it was a lot to learn. I was, playing for Mike McCarthy, who's the head coach in Dallas now. He was my offensive coordinator, and we ran the old school Bill Walsh West Coast offense. And if your viewers and listeners aren't familiar with that, the old school West Coast offense, a lot of verbiage, a lot of terminology, like 14 to 15 words per play. So there was a lot for me to learn as a rookie. And I remember just, once again, kind of having doubts, like, can I do this? Am I smart enough? Am I good enough? Because there was a lot to learn. And I was able to finally, kind of piece it all together. And then once I was able to kind of piece it together, it was just football. It was just football. And then to be around guys like Deuce and Joe and Dante and Aaron, our left tackle, Wayne Gandy, had already been in the league for 14 years. I mean, he played for the Rams when they were in Anaheim back in the early 90s. I'm like, these guys, our corner, Fred Thomas, played for the Seahawks. Jay Bellamy, our safety, played for the Seahawks. I used to go to the Seahawks games as a kid and watch them play for the Seahawks in the Kingdom. I mean, it was just like, it just was every day. I was like, I remember going up to Jay Bellamy going, "I used to watch the Kingdom." And he was like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And it kind of blew his mind too. Like, "Wow, you were in the stands watching me play. Now we're teammates." So it was just a very surreal moment. You know what I mean? It was just great to be able to be around other people like-minded who loved the game and who wanted to be great at it. You know what I mean? So that was special to be a part of.
Yeah, I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan, so we're happy to have Mike McCarthy on board. So he's doing a great job so far.
Good guy. He's a good guy. I love Mike. Mike.
So what was it like learning from him? Actually, you know what? What was it like learning from Jim Haslett and Mike McCarthy?
Jim Haslett is a guy. He's still coaching. I think he's a linebackers coach now in Tennessee for the Titans. And so Jim Haslett was a defensive-minded head coach. He let the offense kind of do their thing. But he loved football players. Jim loved me. I loved Jim. Jim was a guy that if you were a pro, you took care of yourself, you did your job. He didn't talk to you much, you know what I mean? And so, but I became close with Jim. Jim loved my ability. He loved how much I loved the game. He loved how much I studied. He loved how much I watched film. He really appreciated guys that took the game seriously. Mike McCarthy was demanding. You know, he ran a very tough system, and if you didn't get it, you weren't going to be around. But you know, as a rookie, they let you kind of make a few mistakes here and there every so often, but then eventually they're going to want you to start catching on. And thankfully, I was able to do that. But no better two coaches to have to start off my career in the NFL than Jim and Mike, for sure.
Yeah. So tell our fans, what did Aaron Brooks bring to the table? Whoever doesn't know about him, what did he bring to the table?
You know, experienced guy. He was with Mike McCarthy in Green Bay when Mike was the quarterbacks coach up there, a guy that was a backup to Brett Favre. So he just brought a ton of experience and knowledge. And, you know, he loved me. He always would tell me, you got the best hands in the team. We just don't throw it to you enough. So, because I remember when he'd throw it to me, I'd always catch it because the thing about fullbacks is that, you know, when they threw it to you, you better catch it because if you don't catch it, they're not going to throw it to you again. So, but I made sure I caught every one of his balls, and then but Aaron was a great guy and another great teammate that I was able to play for. Yeah.
So over the years now you see Sean Payton come in, you see Drew Brees come in, a whole new faces come in the team. So what is it like? What explain to our fans your overall experience and when you see players and coaches like Sean Payton and Drew Brees come in for you?
You know, kind of like it was kind of when Sean came in, it was post Hurricane Katrina, the 2005 season that we had. We were traveling all over the world. You know, we were all over the country. We had home games in different states. We played in LSU Tiger Stadium. We had our home base in the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. So when Sean got hired, he just brought like this whole new bunch of bag of energy. You know, I mean, he just came in. He was an offensive coordinator in Dallas. He was trying to prove himself as a head coach. We drafted Reggie Bush. We brought in, you know, we signed Drew Brees. We traded for Mark Semino, Hollis Thomas. We brought in Scott Fajita. We got Scott Shanley from Dallas. We got all these great players. And so what he did was he kept a good core group of guys from that 2005 year and brought in a new group of guys. And we all just gelled, you know. And so just when you think that the NFL was at a certain level, Sean and Drew took it to a whole nother level. And so you either got on board or you were gone. And so I learned a lot from Sean. I learned a lot from Drew. I learned a lot from a lot of the other veterans that came in as well. Scott Fajita, Hollis Thomas, all those guys, Mark Semino, just a wealth of football knowledge, stuff I still remember to this day. But you know, it was a time that it was a trying time. You know, our city was not sure if we're going to reopen again. The dome wasn't, you know, they weren't going to be sure if the dome was going to be available to be reopened yet with all the stuff that needed to be done post Katrina. And so it was just a lot of unknowns, but we just came together as a team, you know, and we ended up making that 2006 season a very special season.
Yeah. So speaking of Hurricane Katrina, me and my friends, actually, we were down there helping them out with, we were part of Habitat for Humanity, and we actually helped out rebuild some of.
That's awesome.
Hurricane Katrina, we helped rebuild that, rebuild the houses, the gardens, and the storage centers, and it was a great experience. And what a devastating thing to see, but at least we got to help out, and that's part of my resume forever in my life, and I'm grateful. And then me and my friends are grateful to be able to help you guys out in that situation. And how tough is that for you guys when that thing happened, and especially for you, a football team? You don't, like, a lot of unknowns were happening that year with the NFL. So how tough is it for players, especially?
It was, you know, I'll just say this: it was never as tough as it was for the people of the city, the people of the region. I'll never say that our season was harder than what the people had it. I mean, I think the people had way more to deal with than we did. But, you know, as a team, it was tough. It was tough to compete every week at a high level because, you know, when the hurricane hit, we had no idea that it was going to be as devastating as it was. I'll never forget, we played our third preseason game versus Baltimore, and we played the next Thursday game. That was on a Saturday, and then we played the next Thursday game. We were supposed to play in Oakland versus the Raiders, and I think the storm hit on Monday or Tuesday. And I remember we're all just working out in the weight room. We're basically like post game working out and getting ready to go, and we're watching the TV in the weight room. We're seeing this huge storm just kind of swirling in the Gulf, and we're like, that doesn't look very good. And I tell you what, no more than probably 30 minutes later, Coach Haslett came in and said, hey, everybody go home, pack up. We're gonna have a team meeting in an hour, and we're heading to Oakland early. And we're like, well, that's not good news. So we all went home. We all packed. Thankfully, I didn't have a wife and kids at the time. I was, young. I was 24 years old. And but our team, our 05 team was a very veteran team. A lot of older guys that had families and kids and wives, and so a lot of unknowns. But we went home. We basically packed for like a couple days with clothes. We left our cars. We left basically our houses in town, or wherever you live, apartments, basically full with all the rest of our clothes. And then we land in Oakland, get to the hotel, and turn our TVs on, and the whole city's underwater. And we find out we're not going back for that season, and we're not sure if we're ever going to go back. And then from that point, you're like, oh, we got to play a preseason game tomorrow night against Oakland. How are we going to do this? Thankfully, it was a fourth preseason game, so not a lot of us veterans had to play. But who you are, you're trying to get your mind ready to play a game, and it's like all our minds and hearts were still in New Orleans. We were worried about the people, we were worried about our families. I was worried about my teammates' families. And I remember we couldn't get that game over fast enough to find out where we're going to go for the season. And we got word that after the game we're heading to San Antonio. Our owner, Tom Benson, the late Tom Benson, has had a ranch there. He owned a lot of his dealerships there. He said, we're going to take you guys to San Antonio. We get to San Antonio, and we're staying at the Riverwalk Marriott. I'll never forget it. We're there for 2 weeks, and they still just didn't know. There's this communication with the league and our team. Yeah. And they just didn't know what they wanted to do with us. And finally they made a decision that, hey, we're just going to make San Antonio home for the 2005 season. We're going to have to bounce around and play some games in Louisiana, LSU Tiger Stadium. We're going to have a few home games here at the Alamo Dome. And, oh, by the way, go find a place to live. And, oh, by the way, you don't have your cars, but we're going to ship your cars in for you. Coach, Mr. Benson's going to send all of his transport trucks out to the facility and get our cars out, because FEMA had taken over our facility, and so it was mayhem, man. And you had to and then here you go, you got to get yourself ready to play a full 16 game season where these games count, right? So it was crazy times, man. Probably out of my 7-year career, the one season that I'll remember. I remember everything that happened. I mean, I remember everything. I mean, it was a crazy year. It was a part of history that I'll never forget.
Yeah. So so 4 days after the storm, that's when we came down to New Orleans, started helping rebuild the city, and it's this crazy situation. And like I said, we're just grateful to be part of Habitat of Humanity to help out. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to ask you this is a 2-part question. What was it like learning from Sean Payton, Drew Brees, and tell our fans about Who Dat Nation?
Oh, the Who Dat Nation, man. They're some of the greatest fans in the world, man. I mean, they love their Saints, man. They love their Saints. I mean, if you haven't been to New Orleans, it's unlike any place in the country or the world. I mean, I remember going there from Arizona State, going like, man, where did I just go? Who drafted me? It's just you really can't. You really can't comprehend what the city of New Orleans is like until you go and experience it. So for me, it was a wild experience. But once you embrace it and you learn about the culture and the people, it's the best people in the world. I mean, they'll take the shirt off your back and hand it to you. Yeah. I mean, they love their Saints. I mean, they don't care if you're the water boy. They don't care if you're the trainer, let alone if you're the starting quarterback. They love you, but they love the team. And so a great organization to play for. And like I said before, Sean and Drew came in and they just brought a whole nother level of expectations and goals of where they wanted to go. And Sean came in with an offensive mind that really reminded me of like how Sean McVay is right now for the LA Rams. Yeah. Just a very, very sharp-minded individual when it came to running his offense, running his organization. And no surprise, how we were able to really have some success that year. We really surprised a lot of teams. We went 10-6, won the NFC South his first year. We, went all the way to the NFC Championship, lost to Chicago. Crazy time. It was go from crazy times to 05 to just the most amazing time in 06. To be able to, I tell you what, to reopen that dome in 2006 on that Monday night game. To see the fans and to let them know we're back. We played Atlanta, and the punt block heard around the world was born that day with Steve Gleason blocking that punt. It was. I remember there's a picture of me crying on the bench with my teammate Ernie Conwell, and people will to this day still ask me, like, what were you crying about? You guys had won the game. I said, were you crying because you won? Were you hurt? I'm like, no, I was crying because I was thinking about the whole previous year and everything that the city and the people and everything that we as players and the organization had to go through, and to have that moment, to come back and open the dome up and to give the fans and the city and the region the type of game we gave them, to say, hey, we're back, we're here to stay. You know what I mean? And we're gonna make this place a better place now. That's really what it was all about, and it's a credit to Sean, it's a credit to Drew, it's a credit to all the guys that really they brought in, and the credit to the core guys that were there the previous year, that we were able to all come together for the right reasons.
Yeah. So, the Saints had the best fan base in the NFL, in my opinion, and they deserve everything. And it's time for another Super Bowl there, pretty soon.
Yeah.
But I want to ask you, before we get to your Rams career, what was the battles like against Tampa Bay Buccaneers around your time? Because now the battles are intensifying now against the Saints and Buccaneers.
Yeah, you watched that game the other night. It's still a battle. It's a big rivalry. It is. When I was there, it was, you had John Gruden was the head coach. You had Monty Kiffin as defensive coordinator, and you had current Hall of Famer Derek Brooks, linebacker. You have future Hall of Famer Rondé Barber. Me and Derek Brooks had some battles. I played against Derek at least 10 times when I was there, for my 5 years there. And there was no game between them that wasn't left with a headache when you were done. It was some football being played. But that time, that era of football was, obviously it's a different game overall, but the rivalry is still very strong, as you saw from the other night.
Yeah. So now moving forward to your Rams, you go to the Rams, not Los Angeles Rams, but St. Louis Rams back in the day, and you get to play with players like Mark Bolger, Steven Jackson. You got Donnie Avery, and plus the Rams have a great history. Obviously, you wore the same uniform as Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce.
Yeah.
So what was that like going from a great organization to another one?
Yeah, it was interesting because we were post Greatest Show on Turf. It was post Kurt Warner, post Marshall Faulk, and Torrey Holt, Isaac Bruce, Orlando Pace. Mm-hmm. Big shoes to fill. Big shoes to fill. That first year we went 1-15. It was tough. Steve Spagnuolo was head coach, great guy. He came in from a great coach that came in from New York, and so that first year was a big of an eye opener. You go from New Orleans Saints, where we were just a couple years prior with the NFC Championship game, to now being 1-15. But another organization that is well known for their football and what they do. Great fan base as well. But for me to be able to block for Steven Jackson, one of the greats of my era, was very special for me. Another guy that I'm still close with today, just like I'm still close with Deuce McAllister. What was cool was I was able to help Deuce, become the all-time leading rusher for the Saints. I think now it's Mark Ingram, but now that it was able to help Steven Jackson break Eric Dickerson's all-time franchise rushing record. So that was cool. And help him land in the 2 Pro Bowls as well. So 2010, we drafted Sam Bradford. We were one game away from making winning the NFC West. We lost to Seattle the last game of the year. But yeah, two very special years for me, personally to be able to play with a great running back like Steven Jackson.
Yeah. So tell our fans about the Rams fan base, and obviously they have a great fan base also in with the Rams.
Yeah, very passionate, very passionate. They love their Rams there. I think they still do, and so, but yeah, it was great playing for them. We did the best we could do for them at that time. And, we wish we could have done more. We wish we could have that 2010 season, we could have gone a little bit farther and made the season a little bit longer. But yeah, it was another time for me, in my career to get to know another fan base. I played against the Rams when I was in New Orleans. So I used to play in the old Edward Jones Dome, and how loud it would get. And so those fans are passionate, and I know that they still love their Rams football.
Yeah, so I'm going to put you on the spot right now. Obviously, you got to block for Deuce, McAllister, Reggie Bush, and Steven Jackson. So I don't know where you're going to – but where would you rank those three?
That's tough, man. Three great backs, all three are different. It's kind of, you can see it with Reggie, right? Because his body type is not the same. Deuce was a guy that's about 6'2", about 235 pounds. Probably the smartest player I ever played with was Deuce McAllister. The guy just knew everything about football. I learned a lot from Deuce. Reggie comes in, about his career at USC. You're like, man, I just want to see what this guy's all about, and just being able to witness his athleticism, his speed, his dynamic play. It was for real. He was for real. He was the real deal. It was like when we played against Atlanta every year when I was in New Orleans watching Michael Vick play quarterback. You got off the bench to watch Michael Vick play quarterback. Not necessarily for him throwing it, but the way he would run it. You know what I mean? And so it was cool to be able to do that, every Sunday for those years with Reggie Bush. And then Steven Jackson is just he's a whole nother beast. 6'3", 245, 240, like 3 or 4% body fat. The guy was a man. Probably the loudest runner I've ever seen run the ball. When I was in front of him, and I could hear him behind me. He was running angry. And so, if I rated him, it'd probably be Deuce, Steven, Reggie in that order. It's a win-win situation. They're all three very special players, and I was very fortunate to block for all three.
Yeah, so I want to take you back to one of your best games throughout your career, and it was against my Cowboys, December 10th, 2006. So I'm gonna you tell my fans what happened.
15 years ago, man. Last Sunday. I can't believe it's already been 15 years.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let you tell my fans what happened, because that game haunts me till this day.
America's team, right? It was a point in both of our seasons where we were kind of duking it out for that number 2 seed. Mm-hmm. Chicago the Bears were they had that number 1 seed locked up. So came down to that Sunday night game, December 10th, 2006, where, pretty much whoever won that game was going to be a lock for the 2nd seed. And so, Sunday night game, Sean Payton just previously was their offensive coordinator in 2005, wanted to beat his his protege, as he's the guy that he learned a lot from Bill Parcells. So he wanted to go in there and he wanted to win. I felt good about us going in there and winning. I just didn't think we would win as well as we did. And secondly, I didn't know that I was going to be as big as part of it as I was. I just remember Sean. I remember Sean coming up to me all week during that preparing for that game, telling me specifically, Mike, and he would just kind of come and whisper it to me in my ear every once in a while. Mike, they don't cover the fullback in the flat. You're going to get some catches. I'm like, yeah, I've heard. As a fullback, you hear that all the time. And I was like, yeah, okay, I would just let it go through one ear and out the other. Right? I'm not gonna get myself all psyched up to catch a ball in the flat. I got other things to worry about, blocking and all that stuff. So it all unraveled, man. It just the way he said it was going to happen, it happened. I got a lot of carry. I got a couple of good carries in that game.
You got a receiving touchdown.
Yeah. I had 2 receiving, one rushing. People were like, that was going to happen. I'm like, no. You just play the game, and the calls were made, and I was open, and thankfully I caught the ball. Drew throws an amazing ball. You can't catch Drew's ball, you're you probably
There's
shouldn't be
something.
in the NFL. But it just happened. It just so happened to work out. There was a couple things I saw against them defensively when I would carry the ball that I could exploit, specifically when we ran the belly plays, little quick fullback dives. I was able to get some good yardage on those. And they had good players at that time. Terrence Newman. They had DeMarcus Ware. Brady James was their stud linebacker, and they had some players, and we knew that we're in for a battle. I mean, the game started off with Julius Jones breaking it for a 70-yard touchdown run. I mean, they went up 7-0. I was like, okay, here we go. We're going to find out what we're made of. But right after that touchdown run, it was just we were like a gangbusters, man. We just came out, and it was like no looking back. We just pretty much took the game over from there, defensively and offensively. Wow. So yeah, one of those special nights in my career that never happened again. I knew it wouldn't happen again. It was just one of those. It was one of those nights. I always tell people that you talk about being in the zone. I was definitely in the zone that night.
Yeah, our defense is nasty now, so
yeah, they're much improved. Improved. Yeah.
But I want to ask you now. So obviously, after your NFL career, obviously you're still working with the Rams, with you said earlier, uniform inspector. And what's that been like for you, still being involved in the game and working in a different aspect of the game?
Yeah, when you get done playing, you hope to. It's been such a big part of your life, and so I'm 40 years old, so 23 years of my life, I was, playing football. You know what I mean? And so you want to be around it in some shape or form. And so, I got married in 2009. My oldest son was born in 2011, and you retire, you're done, you become dad, and you want to be around the game. I would love to coach, but coaching is a tough profession. It takes you away from all those little moments that you're not going to get to have, and so coaching always has been kind of in the back of my mind. But when this job was presented to me to just do this little weekend mailbox money type job for the NFL, and to be able to do the uniform inspecting for the Rams, I was like, man, sign me up. I'm all in. It's going to put me down the field. It's going to put me around the players again. I'm going to see old faces. I'm going to see old teammates. And so, yeah, this is my 6th year doing it. Yeah, I work for the league, and I oversee the Rams team when it comes to their uniforms. But, it's just a great. I was there last night. I still get the thrill watching the game. I get the thrill of watching it, analyzing it, and being a part of it. I'm just a part of it now, not running my head through someone, but just writing with my pen on a piece of paper. So. But those are the things you just look for to do. You just look to stay around the game in any way possible, and I'm very fortunate that I'm able to do that.
Yeah. So speaking of the Rams, man, their roster is loaded. You get to be around Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford. You got Odell Beckham Jr., Robert Woods. You got Von Miller, who finally got his first sack with the Rams.
Cooper Kupp.
Kupp. Yeah. So what's that been like for you, just to be surrounded with that talented roster that has
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Donald was drafted. I think he was 3 or 4 years after I had retired. So, seeing him, kind of become the player that he is today, and then being able to be around him. I mean, people ask me, who's your favorite player in the NFL today? Aaron Donald. I mean, I love watching him play. I mean, there's very few guys in today's game that I feel could have played in our era. Because I still believe the game is a physical game, but our era was very physical. A lot of running, a lot of two-back, a lot of tight end play, and a lot of smash mouth. And I'm watching him play, I'm like, that's a guy that could definitely have played in our era. But, Sean McVay is a great guy. I've gotten to know him. He's a great, sharp, young-minded offensive mind. The things that they've been able to do, the roster that they've been able to assemble, the type of players they have. And they're all guys that I have to work with, with certain things when it comes to their uniforms. All great guys, all very humble, professional guys. Sean McVay does a fantastic job running that team. And it's a joy to be around, that's for sure.
And I'm happy for Matthew Stafford. He needed that change of scenery. and he looks like he's playing like Drew Brees right now. So
yeah, I mean, his arm talent is insane. I would say it's close to Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers today is the best quarterback in the league. Just what he's able to do pre-snap and what he's able to do to throw the football, how he throws the football, and some of the throws he makes are insane. But Matthew Stafford's right up there, man. It's been fun to watch him this year. He can throw that deep ball still. He can put that ball into those tight windows and make some throws. You go, wow, did he just make that throw? And then Cooper Kupp is a young sensational player. I mean, he's at 5,000 yards in his career already. I think he's having probably an all-pro year. His best year of his career to this point. So, just a great group of guys they've assembled, and they've been able to pick up Odell. They picked up Von Miller and stuff like that. But to watch, I mean, hands down, man. When I'm at the games, I'll watch Matthew Stafford. I watch their offense, but when their defense is out there, I'm watching 99. That guy, he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, give him his gold jacket right now, man. That guy, he just does things. I just shake my head. I'm like, how is he? He's phenomenal. He's a game changer. And so, we'll see what they can do. They're having a good year. They put themselves top of the NFC West. See if they can finish it out strong.
So, what do you tell our fans? What do you like about SoFi Stadium?
Well, I don't know if you or if any of your listeners or fans have been to the new Dallas Stadium. I haven't been to the new
I haven't been there yet. I still have to go.
Yeah, I guess the guy that built that is the same guy that built SoFi. I mean, you walk in, man. It's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. It's a state of the art. It's just a huge property. It's a huge stadium. It's a beautiful place. We were at the Coliseum the previous years, and going from the Coliseum to SoFi, it's like, wow, it's like night and day. But yeah, it's a great venue for fans. It's a great venue for football, and it's a lot of fun being in it. It's pretty cool to be a part of last year 2020 there were no fans, but it's really cool this year to see fans in there now really packed. It gets really, really loud because when you walk into that stadium. Mm-hmm. You're on the sixth floor. Wow. You're actually looking down at the field, and that's per FAA rules because the stadium's right in England. It's right next door to LAX airport, and so that's what took so long for them to build that thing. They had to dig 100 feet down, so it's kind of every time I go into that stadium, like it always catches me. I'm like, wow, I'm looking down at the field. You're not walking right onto the field. So you gotta take an elevator down. Wow. To get to the field. And once you're down there, man, it's just I look around, it's got that big 360-degree jumbotron. I mean, it's insane, man. It's a really cool place.
Yeah, so a couple more things here before I let you go. And I want to ask you about, I'm just curious, what do you like now in this generation? We don't see that much fullbacks, but you like teams are now putting offensive linemen as fullbacks. Like, for example, the Cowboys are putting Connor McGovern as a fullback now. Games. Do you like that?
Come on, Mike. Put a real fullback back there. When I was playing, they would do that every once in a while. New England would do that every once in a while. I think Indianapolis would do that every once in a while. I think it was Dan Klecko. They'd put him back there. A D lineman. They did that in New England with him. Man, put a real fullback in there. You got a kid. They got a kid there named Nick Ralston, who was a former Arizona State guy that I've worked with personally. He's there. Hey, put him in there. He knows what he's doing. But no, I miss it. When I was playing 32 NFL teams, when I was playing my era, probably 28 of 32 teams had a legitimate fullback, right? Now you're looking at maybe 4 to 6 teams maybe have a fullback. So I watch guys like I'm friends with Pat Ricard in Baltimore. I haven't got to meet Kyle Juszczyk yet. The kid for the Raiders does a great job. I think it's Ingold. Yeah. Alec Ingold. He does a great job. The kid in New England's really come a long way. That Jacob Johnson, I think is his name. He's turned into a pretty good fullback for New England. So yeah, I'm still a huge fan of the position. I think there's still a need for it, and so love watching those guys when they're on because I really like to watch them play. The other night, the Chiefs had I think it was Michael Burton. He scored a touchdown. Yeah. I mean, so it's a great night in the Karney household when a fullback scores. You know what I mean? It's my kids are, my kids know, they know what I did. They know who I am, but they really don't know yet really, what my career was. But, they're big fans of the position too. But yeah, so I stay close to it, root for it. I just hope that more organizations will eventually add them. But it's tough these days. College football doesn't have a lot of guys playing fullback these days like it was when I was playing in college. But it's still there. It's still there. We just need to multiply it a little bit, add a few more.
That's why Kyle Juszczyk, I love him. I loved him coming out of Harvard University, a great player.
Yeah.
How he's turned himself into a great player. And I think, does he remind you of yourself a little bit, Kyle Juszczyk?
I would say Kyle Juszczyk is a lot more versatile than I was. They motion him out. He runs from the slot. He's a little bit smaller than I was weight wise. I was a 260-pound fullback. I was a little bit more squattier. A lot more zone blocking in today's game. Where he's kind of running and picking guys. Where when I was playing, a lot more man blocking, where I was responsible for a certain backer or for a certain safety. I would have to say, before he retired, James Devlin was a guy that I would say there was a lot. He and I were, he was a lot like me, kind of more of a sledgehammer type that could get out and catch the ball for you every once in a while, get you that 3rd and 1, that 4th and 1, convert for you. Pat Ricard is a guy that I've gotten to know really well via social media, and we, now we have each other's numbers. We talk, and he went from being a D lineman to now being a 2-time Pro Bowl fullback. It might be a 3-time now. I think tonight's the Pro Bowl announcements. But he's a 6'3", 300-pound fullback. I mean, he just lays people out. So I love watching him play.
Heath Evans. Heath Evans, you remember Heath Evans? And
Heath Evans was a good guy. He came in after I left. I mean, he's a good guy, another good player. I was very fortunate. Yeah, Gronk. Yeah, I was very fortunate when I was in the NFL. We had Lorenzo Neal in San Diego. You had William Henderson in Green Bay. You had Max Strong in Seattle. You had Tony Richardson with the Chiefs and the Jets. There was a lot of great guys that I was able to watch and learn from, right? And today's game is very few for guys to learn from. But those guys do a really good job,
Yeah. So I want to ask.
All in all.
Yeah. So I want to get to what happened recently. We lost a player in Damian Thomas, and rest in peace. And my prayers go out to his family and friends. Obviously, you got to play against him. So tell our fans about his legacy and what he brought to the table. Obviously, a great receiver and had a heck of a career.
It's horrible. I mean, he's 33, going to turn 34 here on Saturday, and was going to turn 34. You hate to see now when you're done with the game. You hate to see guys leave life. You hate to see guys leave the game, because everyone has a shelf life. You hate when guys retire. You hate when people got to move on. But I hated it when I had to leave the game. But it's saying something else now when someone's no longer here. So it's devastating. It's devastating to the NFL community. It's devastating to us as players, whether you knew him or you didn't know him personally, knew him as a player, as a fan of him as a player. He was a pro. I always tell guys, even the guys I work with, Pat Ricard, some of these young guys in the league now, be a pro, man. Play this game the way it's supposed to be played. And Damian Thomas played. Yeah. There's no better compliment to give a guy than saying, hey, that guy played the game the way it's supposed to be played. Great player. Rest in peace. Thoughts and prayers are with his family and friends and people and teammates that knew him personally. Another guy we lost, Paris Harrelson, another great linebacker, played with the Niners, played with the Saints. Didn't know Paris personally, but another guy gone too soon, passed away, gone at 38. I mean, so it's tough, man. It's tough to see guys go too early. I mean, that's unfortunately it's inevitable for all of us, but you would love to see, those guys live a long, fruitful life. But it's just the older you get, the more goodbyes we have to say. And unfortunately for some of these guys, it's just way too young.
Yeah. So before we get to the last two things, I want to ask about Drew Brees again. And obviously retired.
Yeah.
So you can see him on NBC covering the game. Yeah. He does a great job with that already. So what did you learn from him? Tell our fans about experiences between you and him off the field, on the field, and did you reach out to him once he retired?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I would, I'd reach out to everyone. He's a tough guy to get a hold of, but I was fortunate enough 3 years ago, the training camp 2018. They were having a practice against the Chargers out here, right here in Costa Mesa, which is not too far from where I live, and I was able to take the boys over there, and they got a chance to officially meet him. My wife already knows him, but you hate the bug guys in training camp, but I just kind of hung around, and he had a bunch of media kind of all around him walking off the field, and I just happened to say, "Hey, Drew," and he just looked over and saw me. He just beelined right to me, came over, made the camera, all the reporters leave, and we had a moment there for about 15 minutes where we just got to catch up. Not about football, but it's about life. How he wanted to know how I was doing, my family, my kid, met the boys, got pictures taken. And, I have a jersey of his signed to me upstairs. I get to look at all the time. And, just a class act. What you see is what you get. What you're seeing on Sunday Night Football with him analyze the game, that's who he was as a player. I mean, he was first in the building. He was last to leave. Learned a lot about the way he prepared. I mean, you almost as a player, as a teammate, felt like, did I not prepare enough for this game? This guy is still preparing. I mean, next to Deuce, the smartest guy, one of the other smartest guys I ever played with. I mean, the things that he was able to do pre-snap, and he always got us in the best play possible. Most proud of when it comes to him, a teammate, just a great guy. No one was too small, too little, not big enough for him. He gave everybody his time. You know what I mean? And he's done so much for that community, for that region, and continues to do so much. I mean, what you see, what you get. Great family man, loves his family, and he's a good friend. And it's fun to watch him on there because he analyzes in the studio the same way he would do it with us, do it with me, or do it with us as a teammate. I mean, just a constant professional, always learning, always trying to improve, always trying to get better. There's always something more that we could do to be better. And very blessed to say that I had 3 years with him as a teammate.
Yeah, so he's definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer in my opinion.
Oh, do you give like Aaron Donald, just give him his jacket. I mean, just hand it to him now. I mean, You kidding me? I mean, he's one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play.
Yeah, so the last two things here, our team is part of this foundation. It's called the Hugh Jackson Foundation. He's a former NFL coach. He was an offensive coordinator with Tennessee State, and now he's the head coach for Grambling State University.
Yeah, and he was an Arizona State coach back in the day before I got there.
So we're trying to help.
I played against Hugh Jackson in the day when he was with Oakland and other teams. So. I know Hugh.
Yeah, so we're trying to help him prevent human trafficking, making sure the community stays safe, the kids stay safe. So we'll definitely send that to you and your family so you can go check it out.
Absolutely.
And the last thing here, would you like to say anything to all the nurses, doctors, and all the essential workers right now?
Oh, just, thank you for everything you guys have been doing. It's been a long couple of years, man. I'm hoping that we, put some closure on this eventually. But thank you for all you do. Thank you for putting your life on the line. Not even them, our police, our fire department, our firefighter, everyone, people who really go out, our military, everyone that goes out there and allows us to have the freedoms and allow us to live the life that we love to live here. Thank you to all of you.
Yeah, well said. And before we close this out, would you like to plug anything?
Nope. Hey, just keep watching the game. It's a great game.
Yeah.
Love the game. Love the game. Love the game. Be a fan of it. Love it. And don't be afraid to keep watching it and keep learning about it.
Yeah, so there it is. That wraps up episode 951 with former Arizona State Saints and Rams fullback Mike Karney. He does a uniform inspecting with the Los Angeles Rams. What a great career he had. A great person, great family man. It was truly an honor to have you on the show today to learn more about your story and obviously entertaining our fans here. But thank you again for coming on and keep up the great work. Good luck the rest of the season with the Rams, and I'm hoping you guys go far, but when you guys play my Cowboys, I'm hoping. I'm just joking. But good luck the rest of the way, and
it's all good, man. It's all good. I appreciate it, Nathan. Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. And we would like to have you back on the show some point down the line so you can meet the full team. So
absolutely looking forward to it, man. Hey, yeah. Merry Christmas. Have a great holiday season.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you and your family, and Happy New Year.
Thank you so much. Likewise. Take care, bud. Have a good day.